Down the slope. My name's Ewan, and I am joined by Liam and Craig. We are minus Harry, which he did actually apparently inform us of on Saturday, and I just chose to ignore him. Liam, just how are you doing on this? What's it supposed to? Is it Blue Monday today? What does that actually mean?
I don't really want to talk about that. It's bad enough having to talk about how we're doing without talking about how everyone else is doing on Blue Monday. I does it blows my mind that you forgot that Harry wasn't going to be on, given that we've been getting fairly regular Madrid updates, and he did mention it. I think at least once, maybe twice. You're obviously just a busy man with a lot going on. If you can't remember what's in Harry's social calendar.
I had I didn't see it when he said, but it was during the game, wasn't it? He said it during the game, so I'm using that as my excuse. Craig, how you
You're
doing?
you're so captured by that game on Saturday, you couldn't remember.
Nah, there's no
Oh.
excuses for that, you, and even I seen it. So, no, I'm good, mate. Thanks.
Excellent. Look, like you say, Liam, it wasn't the most enthralling game of the weekend, but Hibs done exactly what they needed to do and got through to the next round of the Scottish Cup. The draw to come later tonight after the Dundee derby. What were your general observations on the game? There's five changes to the team, and aye,
General observations. We're playing a sixth tier team who looked like a sixth tier team. Um, so much so that I don't know if you remember in the first half, they got a free kick just inside our half, like just over the halfway line. And I think that was the biggest noise of the day for for anyone in the stadium, like 2,500 away fans, absolutely cock a hoop at the chance to just pump it into the box. And then I think from memory, I think the boys' ball like fell some way short of the box and we cleared from it. Brody was sitting next to me. It's just the two years at the game on Saturday, and he said to me, "If they get a corner, the roof is going to go off this place." Like, and that like without wanting to be too disparaging about the opposition, who I built up last week because I didn't want us to be complacent about it. It was as kind of as routine a win really as you can ask for, wasn't it?
yeah. I mean, Craig obviously we got off to a perfect start, scoring. Was it inside a minute, inside 2 minutes? Thinking maybe a little bit that almost lent to us taking our foot off the gas almost as well, maybe in the first half.
Maybe I suppose that's one of these sports psychology things. But uh, I was actually in a wee bit surprised because I thought you get that early goal and that's going to kick you on. And as soon as we scored, I went, "Ah, that's us. We'll score five or six here now." But yeah, it probably just made us take the foot off the gas a wee bit, and we didn't quite go for it. I know Rudy misses a chance sort of 2 or 3 minutes later that he definitely should bury. Uh, but it was so comfortable in that without being good in the first half at all. Well,
Mhm.
we were distinctly average, but we didn't really need to be anything other than that. But yeah, professional.
Yeah. Obviously two goals in the second half. Liam, I missed. Not only was the game incredibly boring, I managed to miss one third of the goals. Lauren was at the game with me at the weekend, and she decided about 10 minutes into half time, she wanted a cup of tea, and I was like, I'll just go down with her. Well, that was a fucking mistake. I got back to my seat in the 54th minute.
The
So
kiosk's even open 10 minutes into the second half.
no, sorry, 10 minutes. It's
Oh, right,
half
into
time.
half time.
10
Right,
minutes
right.
into half time. Sorry. Aye.
Right, yeah. I mean,
That's
that you can
terrible.
tell she doesn't go to the football very often because that's just a rookie decision. You either go just before the stroke half time or you don't go at all. That's just, I hope that she's been given that feedback for future
It was.
reference so you don't miss it.
It was. And you know, there was not to let everyone an insight into just how whipped I am, but she went, "Are you coming with me?" And initially I said no, and I just got a look, and I let her actually go. She went down for about a minute, and a minute passed, and I thought, I better go down here. And I went, I joined her, yeah, needless to say, I think I did make the right decision because I still got fed on Saturday night. But Rudy got the second goal of the game, which was sort of the capped off a pretty solid performance and what's his first sort of substantial minutes out with Rudy. Was there any other sort of obvious positives for yourself, Liam, in the game?
I'll take the obvious one and leave Craig with the maybe more difficult challenge. I think obviously the 30 minutes that Kieran Bowie got into his legs was real positive. I think right for the minute that sort of Barry gave him a bit of an OTT announcement coming onto the pitch to, the sort of wee pirouette followed by a nutmeg that he did, sort of approaching the byline. I just think everything, whilst he didn't, obviously end up contributing in terms of goals and assists, he, looked very bright and looked very sharp for someone who's had no football for 4 months, and then prior to that had only really played fleeting minutes, up until the injury. So, I mean, the signs are obviously really good, and we're all really excited to have him back. I just hope that, Hibs and, God forbid, if there's an international break soon, Scotland under 21s probably more poignantly are kind of not too heavy on his minutes, because I think it's just good to get him back and round the place. You saw the difference he made when he came on, because, without wanting to turn it into a negative, but, Mikola was pretty much non-existent. If I actually turned to Brody and asked if he was playing about 40 minutes in the game, because I think he had one touch of the ball and he was offside. I think you see the difference that Bowie obviously makes when he comes on with his energy.
Craig, any sort of a standout positive for you, be that even if it was Rudy, and maybe was there a negative for you as well, just to summarise the game?
No, I would. One of the positives, I mean, it's difficult in a game like this because I suppose you have to take it all with a kind of pinch of salt and opposition level in mind. So you can't really go down two-footed on any positives. Maybe you can on the negatives, I suppose, because the negatives are highlighted even greater with the level opposition. But positive, I'd probably say I thought the two centre halves. Well, I'm saying two. Our two natural centre halves in Warren Horan and Jack Ida. Jack Ida was superb. I thought it was just absolutely strolled it. Kind of performance that you come to expect from him. I thought he done well, because in these games, although they aren't great, little things can trip you up, and a wee bit of pressure. Maybe there's a slight extra bit of pressure there, knowing that if you make a mistake, you're going to be made to look like a bit of a fool. But I dealt with anything that was asked of him really well. One situation in the first half in particular, where he was under a wee bit of pressure and just spun out and drove out of the defence. So yeah, I'd probably say he was my positive. In terms of negatives, I don't want to dig him out too much, but I thought Kwon was really, really poor again. It's starting to look a bit grim for him in his Hibs career, I would say, going forward, because I just can't really rely on him to put in any solid performances in at the moment.
Yeah, I think his midfield partner, whilst he didn't play fantastically well or fantastically bad, he was fine. Let Dylan Levitt when he was on the pitch, but a concern for me would be that that's the second game where he's had to go off around the hour mark. Now I know that he's also lacked a lot of game time, but it wasn't as if the game at the weekend was overly intense. I didn't feel, and maybe that in itself is a negative thing. If a player's sort of trying to get himself back up to speed. But David Gray did say on the Premier Sports sort of show thing that was on at 6 o'clock tonight that we came out of it with no injuries. So I am presuming that it was cramp based as opposed to anything else, which again I don't know if is that better? Do you know, because
I would say that's just as concerning. I know he's not played a lot of minutes, but a professional footballer should be able to get through a game like that without any cramp against a team, 5 levels below us. So that condition would be a bit of a concern for me. And just to go two-footed on my negatives, Levitt physically was getting done on a number of occasions by plumbers and joiners, which that's a concern in itself, because he's coming up against actual athletes in the Premiership that are going to be stronger, faster, and more athletic than these guys. So there's another wee concern as well.
Obviously, there was 5 changes, Liam, going into the game, and maybe if we just look ahead to the Ross County game, did any of the 5 players, any of them sort of do enough, do you think, to keep their place in the team? And think off the top of our head, who would it have been? Miller, Kwon, Rudy, Miko, and Hoylett, aye.
No, probably is the answer. I don't love Miller right wing back, to be honest. I lost count of the number of times he lost possession, trying to beat more than one player. I think he was, I would say he was being disrespectful to the opposition, but I think he felt like it was on for him on Saturday, and actually the boy that was his direct number actually, direct opposition probably did an okay job of defending him really. So I don't think really anyone can say that they made a particularly strong case. It's a curious case what's happened to Junior Hoylett. I mean, he looked really good when we were playing a 4-3-3 and we weren't winning games playing off the left, and the system's obviously changed, and I don't think it's changed to suit him. I think it's been to his detriment, sort of having to either use him more centrally or use him sort of more centrally and quite high up. Um, because his fall off really has been, I wouldn't say dramatic, but he looked really good for a few weeks and has looked.
I'm not
Is average fair? Like, is average too far? You know,
maybe two, maybe
That's not
two
kind.
kinds.
yeah, I was going to say like he hasn't looked the same player. Let's put it that way. So no, I don't want to talk about too many more negatives because look, it was a routine cup win. It was great to see 16-year-old left-sided player get off the bench. I think you know. In stark contrast to Dylan Levitt in some respects, physically he looked up to speed with the game straight away. He had one lung burster pretty soon after he came on. I was like, all right, he's come to play. I was impressed with the fleeting moments that we saw of him. I think his chance probably came because we don't have an abundance of left-sided options, given Obita and Nicky Cadner out. So I don't expect to see him around the first team lots over the coming weeks. But at the age of 16 to go and make your debut it's an impressive feat, as we've touched on before with previous players.
I thought it was
No,
really,
absolutely.
really impressive.
Aye.
Like you say, that was the first thing that struck me when he come over, because I was in the East Stand, so he was right over our side. Was like just the shape of him physically for a 16-year-old. We've seen other guys coming at that age and they look a wee bit small and kind of not up to it, but physically he was right there, and he looked sharp as well, properly sharp for coming on a game. You would imagine, even though, like I've said before, it's lower opposition, he would be mightily nervous making his debut.
Yeah.
He'd have to be, but no, it was impressive.
Just the sort of final points in the game. Obviously, Martin Boyle got a double the sort of first and third games, which is a nice sort of continuation of his form. Regularly scoring 2 goals, which is nice. But if we were to just finish up on the cup stuff just now, preference for draw in the fifth round from each year's another lower league team at home, or are you one of the psychos that want Hearts at every given opportunity?
Under Maloney, did we play Cove Rangers at this stage 3 years ago? Because I would take that exact same draw. I think it was like a Thursday night or something. Chris Mueller made his debut.
And maybe it was grim.
Chris Mueller got absolutely torched by Harry Milne on several occasions that night. That was when I think many of us knew that he was just never going to do it.
Did that go extra time?
I did, because I'm
Aye.
pretty sure one of my mates left before extra time, so I'm watching any of this. It was grim. It was grim. I'll neither confirm nor deny that.
Was it Nicky Cadney?
Where was I going at? Cove Rangers. I think Airdrie are still in the draw. I take it. I must be pretty happy with Airdrie. I mean, they've not won a game since 19 Canteen, so I'd quite happily take them.
Craig, you're in the same camp. That's certainly where I'm at. I want home draw against the sort of slightest teams that are still in there. I can give you a quick summary of teams that are in there. Cove, Airdrie, Hamilton, Queen's Park. They're all sort of lower league sides that are still knocking about.
Yep,
Very
very
Rafe,
much
of
in that
course.
boat. Very, very much in that boat. To be honest, a couple of years ago, I was probably on the side of give us Hearts, give us Celtic, give us whatever. Just because I'm like, if you're gonna have to beat them, then we may as well get it done early doors. But I'm definitely now on the side of let's just get an easy team at home. And I just want a trip to Hampden, to be honest.
Momentum, mate, innit? Like, as much as anything.
That's pure bravado. People that do that, by the way. See, people that want go, fuck it, Gears, Hearts at the time, because they know what they say. It doesn't matter any job. There is, of course, a way that we could just go to Hampden based on the teams that you've named. We could just draw Queen's Park away and get our Hampden trip in for the year.
What sort of crowd do you think, if we were to draw Queen's Park in the cup, Jig, we would take? Like, do you know,
at this stage or the next round? I don't think it really matters if it's this stage of the next round, but
I don't
I
know.
think
Couple
at this
thousand?
stage of the next round, I think we could probably take 8 or 9.
Jank!
I think
I
so.
don't know.
I think so. I think we could take 8 or 9. I know that's maybe a bit optimistic based on the numbers for the weekend. As much as people think that pricing plays a part, I don't think price would be a huge dictator of what would be. But
It's a
I
trip
don't
through
know.
to Hampden. It's absolutely.
Uh,
I'm not being funny, but if there's not like the reward of getting to a final or being able to celebrate a goal, or
mm,
like a trip to Hampden for me just isn't worth it because it's such a nightmare. I hate everything about it. Other than if there's something on the line, I'm there.
Of course, of course. Anyway, we digress around hypothetical cup ties that look, well, not 10 past 10 tonight if it's come to fruition. But like I said, 5 players came into the team at the weekend. None of them, we're not feeling strongly enough to suggest that any of them should stay in the team for league action. So, does that suggest that we urgently need transfers in the door this week before Ross County? We're into the second half of the window now. Nothing has come in the door. It's been a while since anyone went out the door as well, to be fair, in the first couple of days of the window. Is it not panic stations yet, Craig, but are we worried at this point?
Uh, oh, slightly concerned, I would say. I think it's inevitable as a football fan at this stage to get a wee bit jittery when you've got to the 20th of January and you've not seen somebody come in the door yet, especially when you're having to, albeit a cup game, you're having to put a guy on the park who has been very, very public about his desire to leave the club, and you're having to sub him on
Mhm.
uh, for half an hour or 20 minutes or whatever it was towards the end of a game in such a key position. So yes, I'm a wee bit jittery, and I want to see some movement in the next couple of days, both in and out as well, because I think it's important to get rid of some of these guys that are just bloating out your squad.
Yeah,
But we'll know kind of the situation that we're in with regards to players hanging around. So I'm wanting to see sort of 2, 3, and hopefully by the weekend, because what we're 20th of January now, 25th by the time game comes round. So that's high time for folk coming in the door, I would say.
yeah. Liam, we obviously sent a tweet out on Friday evening around sort of positional
mm,
preferences and for top three, and I was having a wee look through the
I think
sort
it
of
was Sunday evening, but yeah,
Oh, was it? Sorry, I thought it was before the game. My apologies. I was looking through the responses there,
mm,
and generally sort of sticks with, I think, the spine really, a variety of
yeah,
some people said number six, goalkeeper,
mm,
centre half, whatever. Um, Not much outside that. No, not much asked for
no,
a wing back or a winger or a sort of forward like that. Is that still where you're at? I know that coming into the
uh,
window you were.
it's that my kind of views on it have remained fairly consistent since probably the closing of the summer window. That it's a goalkeeper, a number six, a centre back, and a centre forward. Can't remember what order I give you because it depends on my mood what order I'm giving you, but I think it sort of oscillates between a goalkeeper and a number six that I'm looking for. First, I think Jordan Smith's been pretty solid for the most part, but I do think it's a position that we can and probably should improve upon. And I think that we've talked about the issues with the sort of number six, or even potentially more of a number eight type player, and the issues with Kwon, and to a lesser extent, I think Levitt, obviously having only managed 2 lots of an hour the last couple of weeks. Um, so yeah, I think it remains very much the same, but I think David Gray's been talking about the sort of X factor player that you would look to get in. I would imagine he's looking at probably the centre midfield, centre forward for the X factor player, because you don't generally tend to consider goalkeepers or centre backs as X factor. You never know, but they tend to be less inclined to be an X factor and more just solid factor.
Yeah, I think maybe my order of preference is potentially changing. Um, this isn't to say that I don't think we should sign a centre back and a goalkeeper. I absolutely do, but I think we need something different in the final third. That I look at and think, right, so if Josh Campbell knocks his pan in for 70 minutes, who are we bringing into that position to, we spoke about Hoylett earlier there. I'm not loving that option, especially not centrally currently. Which is I think that there's a weakness there. And whilst Obita done well coming on for Cadden, he is a left back as opposed
Mm.
to that like a sort of front-footed winger. Which so
It's nice to have differential, though, I'd say, between the two, not the two of them not being identical, because,
mhm,
different types of different games, and they're very different. And Obita and Cadden probably less of a worry for me than what you get when you take Campbell out of the team and replace him with Hoylett in terms of our
mhm,
style of playing, our identity. I don't think Hoylett gives you anything like the same sort of attributes that Josh Campbell does,
mhm,
albeit they occupy probably quite similar positions.
mhm. I think I look at the midfield, Craig, and I think the three is set. I think Trent is Newell and Campbell is, if as it stands, if everyone was fit and available, they play. And I want someone that can come, and it could be in a couple different ways. It could be an out and out number six, like what Liam wants. It could be a more attacking midfielder. But I feel like I need Hibs to have a fourth option to occupy the three positions, because I think if you take any of the players out of the team, we don't look as comfortable in that midfield area.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're going for a fourth option, a different option would be a number 10, somebody to sit a wee bit higher in the midfield, because obviously you've got
Mhm.
Newell, who's kind of more an out and out central midfielder, Campbell box to box, and Triantis probably looking at your more six type. He's not an out and out six, but it's
Mhm.
definitely is more of that ilk. So I think maybe you would be looking for, if in terms of balance, somebody with a bit more attacking mindedness
Mhm.
to sit in behind the strikers, maybe a wee bit more of a flair player. But yeah, I would say recently the the injury to Newell has highlighted that maybe that we don't have an entirely viable, high quality option to come in at central midfield in place of him. Obviously, a guy that kind of goes under the radar and kind of gets forgotten about a wee bit, certainly by myself, is Nathan Mariah Welsh. I feel like whenever we mention central midfielders, I seem to forget about him. Uh, but obviously, you've got a lot of in that position. It seems mad to even be talking about that, the midfield of the park, and be saying, we need a signing in there, but considering the amount of bodies that we would
Bodies.
actually do have in the squad even now, and obviously we've lost a few as well. But I think maybe it's highlighting some of the mistakes in the recruitment that is still an area that you're looking at, despite the amount of
Mhm.
numbers that you've got.
Yeah, obviously, Liam, there is sort of that one active rumour just now, which Ryan's mentioned in the YouTube chat. Actually, is there such thing as an active rumour? I don't know, but Yanni Atansov, I believe, was the Daily Record that linked us with him last week. Macedonian midfielder was. Did you find yourself in a Wikipedia hole this week?
A bit of a Wikipedia hole and a bit of a thought mob hole as well, just looking at how he compared versus other players. Ken, something really interesting I found out about him. Goran Pandev. You
Hmm.
remember Goran Pandev? What a player, by the way. What a left foot. Terrific footballer. He had his own team in the Macedonian league called the Pandev Academy, and that's where Atanasov came through. So upon finding out that information and finding out he played 54 times for him, I was absolutely sold. I must admit, there is fairly limited data on him this season just because he's not played a huge amount of minutes in the Polish top flight. So it's really hard to get a measure on whether or not statistically he's currently a good player. But you'd have to look at the clubs that he's played for and number of games he's played. He would seem to have something about him. There is very limited highlights though, or YouTube reels to be going making assessments about him. But you don't. I don't think you play for Bursaspor, Hajduk Split, and to a lesser extent Cracovia, all those games if you've not got something about you, and play for North Macedonia, who are they're not a massive nation, I know, but they've been a two
No, no,
two
Euros,
major
wasn't it?
tournaments, two
Was
major
it?
tournaments in recent years. So he's obviously got something about him. He seems to be able to score a goal as well, which is quite unusual for a number six. So maybe he's not a number six, maybe he's more of a number eight. And that's what he's coming to do.
I was going to say some of the stuff that I looked online, I was a bit skeptical about the number six. That was the one thing I was kind of, I don't know, maybe he's going to be another one of these guys. But and by the way, this is not me bashing him. Another one of these guys that's kind of built us as a number six, but then when he comes in, he actually you kind of see he's not really that out and out like hard bastard destroyer type of number six. Maybe that a lot of us are looking for.
Mhm. Um, of course, there was one other sort of rumor that I think potentially has sort of died, maybe in terms of the player looking like they might be going elsewhere. 700 grand potentially valued player in, is it in Sweden, or he's looking to go to Sweden? His name
Yeah,
escapes
he's
me, sorry.
Finnish. Matthias Siltanen, plays for KUPS in Finland, which I think I'm right in saying Mixu Patalainen had an association with them for a while. I can't remember if it was as a player or as a manager.
Hmm.
But Jarko Viss, of course, of Hibs fame, is their head coach.
Right.
So you wonder whether or not there's been I know it was a long time ago. He's here and probably doesn't know anyone at the club, but you wonder whether there was a link there to Jarko Viss and an ex-player who's sort of signified that he's likely to be on the move, and we've tried to sort of step in. I think it's very unlikely he'll sign for us if Djurgården are interested, to be honest. They're a pretty big player in Swedish football. I would imagine, with the size of the TV deal over in Sweden, that they'll have the financial clout to outbid us, unfortunately.
Hmm. Just the sort of general vibe here on the YouTube chat comments has pretty much all focused on the need really for central midfielders. Ryan highlights maybe the lack of a need for a striker. Miko, Gale, Boyle, Yuan, and Bowie if everyone's fit. I think that probably can carry you to the end of the season. That yeah.
The key caveat there being if everyone's fit. Dwight Gale was, been fairly injury prone in the latter stages of his career and has not been available at least 50% of the time that he's been here. Miko's been just come off a long layout. Bowie's just come off a long layout. Yuan's currently injured with no
Mhm.
scheduled return date. And Martin Boyle's a 31, soon to be 32-year-old winger who has done very well for us the last 7 or 8 weeks, but is not a stranger to an injury himself.
Mhm.
I would, if we
Yeah,
were going to go with that for the rest of the season, I think it would be a gamble.
I do find it interesting. Liam, you mentioned it, but nobody has said about a goalkeeper in there. Is there an argument that Jordan Smith has done enough to be number one through at the end of the season? Personally, for me, I think we need to be trying to improve on it still. I think, and at least provide competition, because again, he's only broken finger away from Bursick being in goals. Craig, what do you think?
All right. It's a difficult one. It's probably quite similar to the situation Liam's describing there with the strikers. Like it's a bit of a gamble. I know, obviously, they'll probably with Bursick not being able to go back on his loan, like returning to his parent club by the sounds of it. There'll maybe be a desire at Hibs to focus on other positions and just sort of see it through to the end of the season. And I think Smith, in the time that he's been in, has been steady. Like obviously a couple of mistakes when he first came in, but out with that, he's actually been okay. If we're being completely honest, he's been okay. Shot stopping definitely in question, but is he making so many mistakes or filling you with so much uncertainty that you're like immediately we need to switch him out? Probably not. I think maybe there'll be desire at Hibs to just sort of muddle through with Smith and Bursick to the end of the season.
Yeah. You mentioned you used the word muddle through there, and Aki in the YouTube comments does say whilst he appears to not be coming, the obviously potential of a £700,000 bid evidences that we've got money to spend. Obviously tried to sign Luke McKillen in the summer as well. Liam, are you expecting to see that money spent between now and January by the sort of European places fully there to be played for?
It sounds like, from what we've heard, that sort of pot of money is ring fenced
Or
um, for a big purchase. It's like when you were a bairn and you got all the money at Christmas time from lovely relatives and distant people you didn't know, and you'd maybe you'd spend some money on
Mate, I don't know what
shite
you say
here
when
and
you're a
there.
bairn. It's just been my birthday and Christmas, and all I asked for was cash to pay for my golf membership this year.
Deary me,
That's
deary me. That's poor. That is. But I know you'd go out and then you'd maybe have something in mind, a big purchase that you were going to make. 27th, 28th of December. I mean, I think my sense is we probably will spend that money, but it feels unlikely on the 20th of January that we're going to spend it this window, doesn't it? And
Mhm.
I think it's even more unlikely that we'd go and spend that on a goalkeeper, to be honest. I think you go and spend that money in a position where there's real sell on value. And maybe they've decided to use your parlance shoe and they're comfy with the goalkeeping options. I don't know. I would really like to see us maybe go and just get Will Dennis. I noticed that Callan McKenna was on the bench for Bournemouth at the weekend. If that's the case, surely Will Dennis would be better suited to, you know, being at Hibs and at least being an available option. Doesn't mean he has to play, but I think there has to be something else there for me in that goalkeeping position.
I
Does
would
that
agree.
not just sort of, sorry, Ewan, does that not just leave us with an even further bloated squad? Obviously, we're all moaning before about how we've got players in positions that just aren't playing, like, and first team players, and obviously we'll be paying plenty for Bursic. And
Yeah,
ultimately, if you were to get another goalkeeper in, he's just going to sit
yeah.
around the place and probably have a sort of negative influence on the rest of the squad because he's not playing.
I mean, I don't think I. Yeah, you're probably right. I don't think it would be out with the realms of possibility to negotiate though with Club Bruges or Club Bruges reserve team, whoever they are, um, to just do something. I mean, there might not be a break clause in the loan, but just come to some sort of financial agreement for him to go back. He's not, it's the only way he's going to play between now and the end of the season really is if Smith gets injured or goes on a run of games like he did earlier on in the
Yeah,
season. And that would feel incredibly unlucky for that to happen to you twice in one season with two different goalkeepers, wouldn't it?
yeah.
But you just never know.
It's possible. It
You
is
just never
possible.
know.
Well, just couple last comments there on YouTube. Frosty has said he'd like a younger winger, maybe one that can operate on both sides, because we are sort of we've got Nicky Cadden, who's obviously very effective, but then after that it's maybe Boyle and Hoylett, especially if we keep playing the sort of formation where Yuan will probably operate more down the middle if he's of course still a Hibs player. Come the end of the window, we don't know what that'll look like, or if he is, when he'll be available again. It seems to be the never-ending bruised toe. But we've spent a lot of time there talking about Bursic, so why don't we have a little look back on the summer window now while we're in the middle of January? And let's just do a little bit of assessment on the players that came in. It feels like a fair time to look back just over halfway through the season, and maybe that will guide us on how confident we're going to feel about the business that we hope will be done between now and the end of the window as well. So if you start me off, Craig, we'll go position by position and maybe just give me an overall out of 10 on the players that we've signed there. So in the summer, we brought in two goalkeepers in Jordan Smith and Bursic. What would you give the recruitment of goalkeepers in the summer out of 10? And I'm not going to bore everyone and go player by player. We're just going to go positional group.
Uh, 4. And I don't think that's actually entirely unreasonable, to be honest. For a club of Hibs' size, I think we can and absolutely should be demanding better from a goalkeeping department to start a season.
Do you think that Do you think that number sounds fair, Liam? We're ultimately playing the player that we think we would imagine we intended to be our backup currently as our number
Yeah,
one.
I was gonna say four, and I think I don't think there can be any argument for a case for higher. I don't think you can give Bursic any more than 1 or 2 out of 10, and Smith sort of 5 or 6. So I think that averages out as a 4.
Okay, I would probably agree with you. Yeah, I think a 4 out of 10 feels appropriate for that department. Defense centre backs, specifically. Let's look at centre backs. So we brought in Jack Iredale, Warren O'Hora, and Marvin Ekpiteta in the summer. What would you average out over the three to get a rating out of 10, Liam?
Much better than 4. I think, jury's still out very much on O'Hora, but I think you'd have to say Iredale's looked really good, and Ekpitell looked pretty decent before his injury, barring the St Mirren game. I'm going to say 7.
That was the number that I landed on. I'm happy to share my workings. I had a 6, a 7, and an 8. I'm sure you can figure out what O'Hara is the 6, Marv is the 7, and Iredale is the 8. Potentially for that might be some hype bias as well. Like Jack Iredale is a last minute bargain basement player that's come in has proven very well. Craig, where would you land?
Probably a bit lower, to be honest. I think you guys have been incredibly kind to a defence that shipped some unforgivable goals at the start of the season. But I still haven't got over some of those ones that honestly so bad. Uh, 5, 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's harsh. That's
No,
harsh.
Yeah,
because but
yeah, yeah.
ultimately our goal scoring prowess in the last sort of 2 month spell has
That's fair.
pulled them out of that, in my opinion, anyway.
That's fair. I don't know how much those individual defenders have been culpable for goals. So O'Hora against St Mirren, Ekpiteta the other game against St Mirren, Iredale none. I think you have to put a lot of the goals that we conceded in the early part of the season down to the goalkeeper.
Mm.
Yeah, I was maybe even going to go as high as 8, to be honest, just based on just how good Iredale has been. Again, we didn't cover that in the positives. I thought, all the
Craig
caveats about
mentioned
60 opposition. Oh, did you? Sorry, Craig. But I thought Iredale, he did, so he did, I remember now. Iredale was brilliant. Like, and he almost hasn't put a foot wrong. I say almost because he has had one sort of ropey moment, but aye. Maybe
well,
because the expectations were
I,
low, he's been so much better than the
yeah,
expectation.
I think maybe just recency bias has a wee bit of
Mm,
a influence on that one. And
uh,
this defence as a whole, I think it's difficult to say when things are going good as they are just now, when like confidence is high, we're looking good. When confidence wasn't there,
mm.
they just definitely did not look good.
well, we'll
Uh,
uh, we'll settle this as a 6 out of 10. Craig went 5, we went 7, but I'm going to give Craig I know that's a 2-on-1, Liam, and maybe that sounds wrong, but I would say Craig feels much more passionately about it than in his rating than we do.
Mm.
So far that means they've got a score of 10 out of 20. Which just about hits your usual 50% hit rate sort of ratio
sixth in the
that
league.
you like to reference, Liam. Wide options. Let's go into that now. We're sort of playing wing backs just now, so this is going to be a little bit of an eclectic mix. But we brought in Junior Hoylett, we brought in Nicky Cadden, and I think that might have been our lot in terms of wide options in the summer. So arguably the standout signing in Nicky Cadden. Craig, what do you think him coupled with Junior Hoylett would give you?
Well, Nicky Cadden's absolutely the standout signing. Obviously, you've probably had a more marquee signing, but he's been injured for ages. And Cadden's been one of the best players in the league since he got up and running. Obviously, really got a wee injury at the start, but once he's got going, he's been absolutely superb. And Junior Hoylett, by the way, was actually one of our best players when we were shit. Uh,
What an accolade. He was one of
I
Aberdeen's
know,
best players when they were shit last season as well.
I know.
Makes you think.
Uh, there's probably something in it. But no, I think both of those signings have to be put down as positive ones, especially Nicky Cadden. I would have. Can I go halves or is that too sitting on the
Yeah,
fence
yeah,
shite bag?
yeah. I was going to give him it there, Liam, but that is normally something that I feel like you would normally be like, nah,
I
nay,
would probably
half
call it out,
marks.
but Specky would just say he's doing half
Ah,
marks
right,
anyway and
right.
just
Well, I'll
continue
round
to
up to
go
an
down
eight then.
the
I'll
half
round up
marks.
to an eight overall.
An eight, okay. Do you know Hoylett's an interesting one? It just made me think because I was thinking back to our pre-season predictions. Where does Hoylett right now for most improved this year? We had his shout.
Sure.
And given his logic,
I,
surely it's
He's
not
had
very
some
well.
belters. He's had some belters this season already.
I can't really slag him too much publicly after my most improved of a beater, to be
I,
fair. That's
I,
a bad one as well.
I'm looking forward to Harry campaigning for Reece McCabe to get the manager's job again after David Gray goes. How's that
Right,
working out?
Liam, Craig went with an 8. I am going to take a notch lower and say 7. Like
Yeah.
Nicky Cadden's been good. In fact, no, sorry, it's been really good, really good. Sorry, that's probably not fair. But Junior Hoylett, has been okay. And I think for someone that's played the minutes that he has in this team, we needed him to be more than okay over the piece, probably for the role
Yeah.
he's had. So I would say that's maybe like a 9 and a 6, and I'm landing on a 7.
I mean, Hoylett gives you almost nothing off the ball. So when he's on the pitch, he needs to be really good on the ball, and he hasn't been really good on the ball for quite a long time now in terms of games. I would kind of struggle to give him anything more than a 4 or a 5.
That's harsh.
I, I, but maybe it is harsh. But I mean, how effective was he actually in that period? He looked good, but how actually effective was he in that period of what was probably
There,
four? Looking back on it now, it's probably a run of about 4 games where he was
I,
good.
w I wish I was good as good as keeping receipts as you, but I remember there was a home game where you commented on the first half that him and Obita on the left hand side was watching
70s
Prime
Brazil,
Brazil or something.
70s Brazil. I said like 70s Brazil on the left hand side and 90s Blue Brazil down the right hand side with Miller and Boyle. So that did age well. But no, I mean they were really bad that day. I don't know if you remember. I think obviously the switching system's not helped him, so I'll give him a 5. I
Okay.
I would struggle to give Nicky Cadden. I actually think 9 might be not a high enough mark. Like, what more could a left wing back have brought to the team? Not just in terms of numbers, goals and assists, but the intangibles that we've spoken about previously. Okay, he was injured a
Perhaps
wee bit at the start, so maybe you take a mark off for injury. But really, since he's coming at the team,
are we
where
judging
where
this on
where
the
are you getting
player themselves or the signing? And I
the
feel like that's
impact, the signing? I suppose.
so I'm saying it was too late in the window. He
Aye,
got an injury early, so he has
aye.
missed games. He took a while to get going,
Give him a
and
9. Give
obviously
him a
what?
9. Be
So
done with it.
right, okay.
7,
So what are you? So you're landing on a 7 as
7
well.
for the Wipers.
What did I say? I've already
You
forgot.
said
You
you
said
said a
7.
7, but you shouldn't see
Right.
that. This is where my working came because I was a 9 and a 6, and I therefore a 7.5. But I'm not allowed that, so that's why I
Well, Craig,
rounded up to
you
8.
got the last one, so we're getting a 7 on this one. So we're now at 17 out of 30. Central midfielders Hibernian signed in the summer. Nectar Triantes, who we stressed at the time was not a centre back and has proven absolutely not to be. And we also brought in Kwon from Celtic. Again, forgive me if I've missed anyone there, but I believe that was our lot in the middle of the park. It is.
Two
I mean,
polar
God,
opposites again, isn't it? It's just
and
that every
again,
player, it's just like two ends of the spectrum, each of them,
I mean, what we thought we were on to a winner after Kilmarnock away. They both of them had stormers that day, and
Hmm.
sort of they've both dipped at various points. Nectar's absolutely, he's came out of that dip and really settled and proven himself to be one of the most important players on the team. Whereas, unfortunately, Quan's dip hasn't finished. His stock isn't back on the rise yet. I'll go first on this one. I think Triantes deserves as a signing an 8. There was a low period, and it is only a loan. If I'm giving Nicky Cadden a 9 with the caveat of sort of availability and when it was brought in, I think it's only right to not, I think to get a 10, it would have to be a permanent signing that's lighting the place on fire. So I would give Chat as an 8. Con is like a 4, 3 even, because again, I think he's a player that we've brought in on loan from Celtic with a vision of playing most weeks and has proven himself not to be at that level. So I think it is. I've got to be honest. I think it's a poor signing. I'll settle on a 4 with his 8. That makes that a 6 out of 10 for central midfield for me. Liam.
I think 4 is incredibly generous for Quan after that performance at the weekend. Incredibly generous. I really struggle to be flattering of other teams' players who were being sent here to develop, who just frankly aren't cutting the mustard. So um, I'm not going to say exactly what I'll give Quan, but I think I'll give that position overall a 6.
Okay. Craig, is it a full house of sixes there, or do you have a slightly
Uh,
altering position?
yeah, if I'm averaging it out, probably a 6. But because I think Triantis has been, I don't think you could really say he's been just as impactful as as Nicky Cadden, but I wouldn't put him a million miles away from him, to be fair.
Okay.
Especially recently, his performances have been really consistently high level the last sort of month or two. But Quana is just really, really disappointing. A player that I was actually quite excited for when he first came in, and showed early promise, and just sort of week by
Mhm.
week has just got that bit, wee bit worse and worse and worse with every performance. Obviously, there is rumours that he's carrying a wee knock, just to give him a slight out on that one, but I don't know if that warrants sort of the level of performance that he's been turning out.
Does
So
the knock
6.
mean that he's got to run like he's got a coat hanger stuck in his back? Why does he run like that? It's genuinely like there's a couple of players at Hibs who can't run, like genuinely just can't run. Like I don't understand how you like honestly go and send them back to sports day, like just primary school sports day, egg and spoon
Fucking
race.
hell.
um, well, that takes us on finally to the striking and sort of centre forward positions, of which we signed three. We brought in Kieran Bowie, obviously for a sort of significant transfer fee. The vastly experienced Dwight Gale, and we trusted the process and ended a long 12 months of processing to bring in Mykola Kukarevic. Have I nailed that there, by the way? Have
Nah,
I smashed that? No.
no,
Okay,
not
no,
based on the new spelling. I don't think that.
I, I thought that was the new. I thought Kuharovic was
I think you've
the. I thought
taken the
that
K
was
out.
the new.
He took the K out the second time round. You said Prince took the K the first time.
So it's Kuharovic, right?
Think
Okay.
so.
Top notch
Miko,
for me. Right. So three signings, all of at different ages, different availabilities. I'm going to go first here in this. I think Kieran Bowie's like. I would struggle to give him on a six or a five. Five, maybe five based on potential and the fact he's a permanent player, I'd say maybe five because early promise, but another player that we've seen at Hibs come in, it's not a criticism of himself, and he obviously didn't get injured on Hibs time. So again, maybe it's not even a criticism of the club, but you've spent the money and then he's not been available for 4 months like that. I would struggle to give him on a five. Gale's probably exceeded my expectations. Based on that, I would maybe give him an eight. Actually, for what I thought we were going to get out of him, and the fact he scored the winner at Tynecastle, come on, like that's only fair. Miko, I'll give Miko a five as well. So I don't know. Because I still think whilst he's been ineffective, I think he's still scored 4 or 5 goals. Um,
scored in a derby as
mm,
well
scored in a derby.
from a yard.
Five. I would struggle to give Bowie more than Miko
I've
in
I
terms of
actually,
what they've
uh,
contributed
I think that's probably
personally.
Bowie. I feel like he's kind of null and void. It's not really fair to give him a score. I would say
Yeah.
you start off at a 5 before you kick a ball, so he stays at a 5
Okay.
because he's hardly kicked a ball.
Okay.
Uh, I'm probably not quite on the same wavelength as JXM in the chat, who's just given Karavic a -3 out of 10. I think that's perhaps a tad harsh. Obviously, he does have to lose some points for faking an injury at Celtic Park. But nah, like he's not been great. Let's face it, he really hasn't been great. I think he's a player with all the attributes to be a pretty decent level footballer, especially in Scotland. But he doesn't seem to use his natural physical attributes very well. Uh, so yeah, I'd probably be giving him a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Uh, and Gale, I actually think he's probably. I think even 6 is a bit harsh. Did you say 6, Ewan?
I give him an eight for
Oh,
Dwight
right,
Gale.
Christ, sorry. Maybe I'm just asking something in the chat saying 6.
But I
Yeah, I
landed
would
on a six
probably
overall. Sorry, I
I'd
landed on.
probably be more towards 7 or 8, just because I feel like he's done the exact job that I would expect of a player of his ilk coming into the club to do. Like he's an older player. He's come in to show a wee bit of experience, maybe come on, get a few minutes towards the end goals, pick up towards the end of games, pick up important goals, and he's done exactly that. So I think 7 or 8 is probably fair. He's done exactly what he's said and done, basically.
Okay, so you feel like you're on much the same wavelength as of around a probably 6 out of 10 in terms of a position as a
Yeah.
whole. Liam, I'm interested to get your take on Miko because probably of the four of us, in certain, like, I think me and Craig were more like, aye, we'll see. Harry was probably the biggest champion of the signing, but you were definitely the most pessimistic about it. But do you think we've probably seen exactly what we should have expected out of Miko? A couple goals,
Uh,
injured. Like, do you know, like, are we just seeing what we seen last time?
I think the memories of him are better than the player from his loan spell. He was good in some games. I would actually go as far as say he was probably better in his loan spell than he's been
This time round?
this second time round. Certainly his goal scoring ratio is better, 5 and 15 in the league versus 3 and 15 this season. I actually was starting to question on Saturday whether he was interested at points. He wasn't showing for the ball, wasn't really running the channels. You know, I just wondered maybe he thought he was a level above playing against a team from the West of Scotland League. I don't know. I've been, well, I didn't have really particularly high expectations, but even then, I've probably still been quite disappointed. And for that reason, I think I'd give him a 3, just one for each of his league goals.
Okay.
I'd go, I think 5 on Bowie because it's the only rational thing to do, albeit he scored 1 and 3, so his goal scoring ratio is better than Miko with a smaller
Well, and
sample size,
significantly
admittedly.
less minutes as well. Like,
I, um, and then I think a 7 for Gale because I think he's had a great moment already in a Hibs shirt and showed his absolute class. And for that alone, you can't really give him anything less than a 7, I don't think. But you know, the fact that he's only really, I know he's played a couple of 90 minutes, but he's only really supposed to play sort of 60, 65 minutes, you know, is a bit of a patchwork sort of signing.
yeah,
It's kind of putting a sticky plaster over an issue until the summer. I really like him as a player, but I think as a signing, he's a 7.
that has you at a 5. Me and
That
Craig
has me
land
at
at
a
a
5.
6. I'll let you. Who feels more passionate about the striking position here?
Actually, I've got a point to add to that. Actually, because I think probably if you look at the striker recruitment or the attacker recruitment over the summer, I think when you take it individually like that and you average it out, it probably looks a bit kinder actually than it was. But I
Mm,
think there was so much more of a demand to really strengthen in that area, particularly when you're letting a number 9 who you bought for what was it 700 or 800 grand go back out on loan.
Hmm.
Uh, we've basically, let's face it, we've not replaced Fenty at all. We've just not replaced him.
no.
I think probably Miko was meant to be that, but probably all knew that it wasn't really going to be up to
I
that
suppose the
level.
question comes then: has Gale exceeded the expectations more than Miko's performed below them?
It's a good question, that actually. It's a good question.
I don't. I don't
Because if
think Gale
Bowie's
has exceeded expectations. 'Cause I think everyone knew Dwight Gale was a good footballer when he signed. So I think, you know, I don't think anybody who's followed English football for the last sort of decade wouldn't think that Dwight Gale would come up here and score goals. I think the disappointment has been he's not been available as much as maybe we would have liked him and been able to play the minutes that we would have liked him to play. But I don't think anybody didn't. I said them when he signed. I thought as long as he stays fit, he'll score goals because that's what he's done in his career for the most part.
okay.
I would agree
So,
with Liam's workings there, to be fair. Yeah, Miko's been the disappointment.
and he was probably the number one jank striker. Oh, well, Bowie, but then Bowie was tipped to the right winger.
Yeah, but you look at when the Miko was signed after the St Mirren 3-0 game, wasn't he? That was the
No,
week we
just
had
No,
that
he
rush
was
of
in the
days
signings.
squad.
before.
He
Was
was
he
in
the
the
day
2 days
squad.
before?
before.
I always get because we signed about 4 players that week, didn't we? I mean, totally wasn't a reaction until it was in the first game of the season 3-0, but we did sign 4
Two of the
players.
best signings have been out of that Nicky
Uh,
Gannon and Jack Iredale.
uh,
Right, so what are we saying? 5,
I
4,
think so.
6?
I think we're saying 5.
Right, well, that gives Hibs summer recruitment a score of 28 out of 50 when you break it down by the
Ah,
5 positional groups. So what does that give them? 28 divided by 50 times 100. 56%. So they've got a C.
that's
Does
a
that
C. It's
feel
a C minus, isn't it? Maybe even a
it's a
D.
pass? Aye, it's a
It's not maybe
pass.
not even the sort of version of a D. Right? Okay,
Like
C
if you get
minus.
40%
above
was a pass at
50%,
uni.
Oh, was it?
Aye.
I could
Fucking universities, man, woke nonsense.
get
40%. How can you get
aye.
less than half of something right and get a pass? Fucking uh, taxpayers' money.
That was the
What a
aim, mate.
waste.
That was always the aim, 40% or above.
Right. Waste.
So we'll
Anyway,
call it a C. Does that but I don't know what we've learned from that exercise, but if we were coming
This
into
country's
it,
going to
would
the dogs, in it. 40%'s a pass. Wouldn't have happened in my
He's
day.
raging about that, isn't he?
what does that feel right? I know at the time we were obviously very critical of the
Thatcher's
window.
Britain for you. Sorry.
But does that feel right, do you think? Do you know, like we've tried to split that up as much as possible. Maybe if you're doing individual players, it would come out differently. But positionally, like I think it goes just above your sort of 50-50 ratio, if you like, Liam, in terms of
I-
out of 10. Is that
Yeah, you'd have to say it's a better window than it looked like 6, 7 weeks ago. We weren't giving it 28 out of 50 6, 7 weeks ago. We were probably struggling to give it 20. I'd say it probably is better than the the, the last couple of windows prior to it. It's the summer windows, I should say. I think the January before was actually quite successful. Um, but the last couple of windows, summer windows for it, I think you probably have to say it's maybe a bit of a step up. So, maybe we were a bit too harsh in our criticism
Mm.
during the sort of October, November period when things were looking really bleak. Maybe we were too harsh in our criticism. Many fans were probably too harsh in their criticism of a lot of people, but um, it still hasn't been let's look at ourselves. It's still not been a terrific window. There's still quite a lot of players that we've brought in who aren't contributing anything at all.
And I know it's you have seen injuries. Do you know, like Miko injured, Cadden injured,
You're gonna
Marv
get injuries though,
injured.
mate. You're gonna get injuries.
No,
Like
I know.
that's
But you
a
signed Bowie recovering from an injury. Like
uh,
it is. I think we've got that a bit right, Craig. What do you think?
Uh, yeah, I would say even if you sort of link it to league position, middle of the road, 50-50, like that's kind
Mhm.
of where you are. Uh, I would say the one kind of caveat to that is that you obviously a transfer window is not purely just based on your ins,
Of
and
course.
like on the number of ins and the quality of the ins. It's also based on, first of all, the timings of the players that you bring in, which we're all on record. It was a lot of these guys were too late. When the season started, you've lost a game 3-0 at the start of the season, and then we played Celtic second game of the season. It's too late to be bringing in the vast majority of your squad. But
Mhm.
also, a window's judged as well on the outgoings, and ultimately, our squad's still too bloated, and that's even with what 2 or 3 leaving already in this window. So
Yeah.
I think in terms of the summer, I would based purely on ins. That's probably about right, just about.
Yeah. Like, we're approaching the hour mark, so we won't keep the people waiting any longer for what is the main headline on this episode. We thought we'd take this opportunity, maybe, like you said, Liam, the conversation and the tone of conversations that were happening, maybe in September, October, even in November time, was significantly different. A lot of frustrations being aired at the players, not so much at the coaching staff, and then the sort of golden quadrant, as they're known, that sit above the coaching staff. Where is your head at with that now, in the middle of the January transfer window? Feel free to break it down person by person or a more general view.
I mean, I think, you probably have to differentiate the individuals, don't you? Because, they've been at the club for a different period of time. Their tenure has obviously encompassed different things. And each of them, I'm sure will bring, their own individual qualities and experience to the role they're doing. I guess, my position on it hasn't really changed from where we were um, earlier on in the season. I still think that we need to have some sort of change at the top of the club. I do think that we, you know, we're all in a sort of, I suppose, a fairly buoyant mood at the moment. But the fact of the matter is, we're still sixth in the league table, and there's still a lot to play for this season. So perhaps changing right now is not the right thing to do. But I would like to think that come the summer there would be a recognition if we haven't improved upon the sort of 2/8 place and 5th place finish that we've had. There'd be a recognition from those in charge that actually maybe it's time for them to step aside and bring some fresh thinking, fresh perspectives, and fresh leadership into the club.
Mhm.
That's kind of my take on it. I would hope that the appointment of Garvin Stewart will help to rectify, I suppose, some of the issues that we've seen with recruitment. But I think that will only be a success if those who have perhaps been underqualified but over involved in our recruitment in the past step aside to allow the people who know what they're doing to get on with it. And I think Garvin Stewart, based on his CV, should be someone who's given trust and empowered to make decisions.
Um,
I just have to hope that happens.
yeah, I think for me, I think what you've said there about the sort of recruitment side of things is spot on. I still have my concerns. Maybe this conversation would be better for AGM times, which I'm sure it
Hmm.
won't be too far away. But obviously, at last year's EGM, the numbers weren't great, and we were sort of assured on the back of that the numbers would be a lot better. Um, we were then greeted with an interview at the arse end of the transfer window where the owners having to put, was it millions of pounds up to sort of cover like not I suppose a debt, but just simply because of poor recruitment and a mismanagement of squad that we're sort of having to cover that, and that would be a concern for me that I don't see 10 to 12 months down the line any change in the way that Hibernian Football Club are acting or being run since the Black Knights got involved. Um, it would be wrong of me to suggest that I wasn't happy in the summer that they appointed David Gray, which, if they went down the route that the Black Knights wanted to, they most likely wouldn't have. But I think there was something announced last year by the Black Knights that was supposed to sort of transform this football club and take us to that quote unquote next level that I think we're yet to see anything different. I don't think we are operating in a playing field that we weren't previously in terms of recruiting permanent players from the lower leagues in England and looking to bring in loan players maybe from different European countries. I've cited it before.
Hmm.
I haven't seen this game changing movement yet over the last 10 months, and if yeah, it has been disappointing. Look, the on-field stuff's got a lot better, but I think there's still a lot of things that need to be changed off the pitch at Easter Road. It'll be interesting to see what the sort of survey results were and stuff if they ever get shared that were out about the match day experience and stuff like that. Not sure I've noticed any difference in that since the Black Knights came in, but yeah, I would still be sort of advocating for change ultimately. Craig, what about yourself?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I don't think we can be like I think as football fans and as a Hibs fan base, we're obviously very very fickle. And when results are going good, you tend to take your focus off field matters. When results are bad, it's off field matters are well, obviously and on field, but these things come into light. I'm, I'm a big fan of being proactive, and I think maybe while you're on top and while things are going well, it makes it much easier to make change. I think when things are going bad, I feel like any changes that you do try to make are just going to be under the spotlight even more. So I think hopefully, obviously, ideally, this sort of good spell for us continues towards the end of the season, even if it's good to middling. I don't think there'll be too much outrage. And then I think, oh yeah, you definitely have to still make changes. I think Black Knight tightening their grip almost on the club and starting to come in more and more of every sort of 6 month period. You're starting to see it, small changes all the time. Obviously, Gavin being the latest sort of notable one.
Mhm.
So going forward, I'd just be looking for Black Knight, the Black Knight group anyway, and Bill Foley probably to take a bit more control and start implementing some of the stuff that they've got the expertise to do. Because ultimately, I think we've been down the route of the current setup that we've got for sort of 3 4 seasons, and ultimately it just has not been good enough. Like, I know they are saying that they feel at the moment they're making the right decisions and they're kind of on a path, and they've learnt from these poor things that they've done in the past. But I just think, it's tried and tested. What did Liam say earlier? 1 5th place, a lucky 5th place, and 2 8th place in the league, which in the Scottish Premiership just is nowhere near the mark that
Mhm.
Hibernian should be. So yeah, I'd definitely be looking for change. While
I know
ideally, like I say, while we're on top and while we're going good.
I know that we don't, you can't pin all of this back to recruitment, there is obviously other things in football, and that's why I mentioned the sort of balance sheet and stuff like that. Like, I think that will be I'll be surprised if there's not concerns raised on the back of the AGM. It's certainly what I'm expecting,
Uh,
the way it's went. But I feel like we had an opportunity coming into this window. And again, I know that I generally am more of a worrier in terms of timings of signings and wanting them in early and stuff like that. Then maybe it's not realistic. But I think we had an opportunity to make a statement in the sense of saying, look, this is what this new regime. So obviously Malcolm Mackay came in June, and he sort of made it known that we were having to push things down the line a little bit. And the summer we were kind of underprepared for the summer with obviously Nick Montgomery sacking late in last season and David Gray and Malcolm Mackay coming in. I feel like we had an opportunity there to early in this window sort of bring in a player or two, and that shows this is what we are doing. Do you know, like taking that opportunity to say this is the benefits of this new structure that, we've been working on this for since the summer or whatever, and it feels like that's kind of gone. You can look even just at our YouTube comments. There's multiple comments in there around, wanting to avoid sort of shopping in the basement at the last minute and things feeling rushed as they did in the summer, and whether that is or isn't the reality of a situation, much like with everything in football, the optics and the way that things are interpreted is that whether it's the truth or not, that is what becomes the truth, and that is what will drive the narrative, and that is what will drive fans' opinion and into the game. So I think there's already been a little bit of a missed opportunity here, not to be too down on it. Hopefully, hopefully the guys that are in charge and that we're sort of referencing here get things right, because I don't think you ever want massive changes at your football club constantly, but it feels like a missed opportunity so far
yeah,
for me this January window.
you don't want more instability, I don't think, when things have already been quite unstable in terms of the head coach manager's position at the club for a long time. And I think the last 7 games, I'll be honest, I think David Gray's gone on that run in spite of those above them rather than because of those above him, to a large extent. I think it's his leadership even through, the sort of dark times of September, October, when we weren't picking up points and we were capitulating, his continual sort of stoicism in front of the media, how he delivered the message, how he took accountability when others above him have, repeatedly failed to take accountability for their own failings. I think demonstrates, a form of leadership that I think the players will look up to and respect. And, maybe it was just a matter of time before he got it right, at any particular club. And you do see it, there's some really poorly run clubs who've just appointed really good managers and they've got decent playing squads. That does genuinely happen. It's far more frequent or more usual to see clubs that are all sort of fully functioning, everything from the top down works fairly well. But mate, you raise a really important point, Ewan, about the balance sheet. The news come the end of February, I would imagine is going to be very, very grim based on, bits and pieces that you hear. And that was kind of the only thing that this group really had to celebrate as a success, was club controlled income being up. But unfortunately, expenditure is up because of punts, frankly, on players and recruitment decisions that have been not up to,
And
managers and failure on the pitch to generate more income to keep up with the extra wages. I really think that, my sense is that things probably won't change, but I still think there needs to be change. And I think it's kind of blinkered to think otherwise, because we're on a 7-game or 8-game unbeaten run. It does, for me, that hasn't really changed anything.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. You need to be consistent. Have to be consistent all over the board, and we want to change before, so you still have to need.
Just on that, I think you can change your mind as new information or new data presents itself to you that might change. So if they turn around and present a really really brilliant balance sheet in the summer and we stumble to third this season and end up in the Scottish Cup final and have a really good January window.
That stage yet.
But we're not there. No, we're not there. And that is unlikely. No, I know, because it's that's done and dusted at the end of July or end of June. I think the accounts run to. So you can't. Well, we don't know because it's not in the public domain, right? So we don't know for sure, but we don't think it's going to be good. You can change your mind, but I think in summary for me, an 8-game unbeaten spell is not enough to change my mind.
Yeah, and Yeah, you're absolutely right about change, but 6 weeks is never going to make you change your mind on what the best part of 3.5 years.
Aye.
Do you know, like,
Yeah.
like 6 months maybe could. Do you know, like, especially if it's positive. Anyway, Liam mentioned it's 7 or 8 games unbeaten, and I cannot be arse verifying that. It certainly
Eight,
seems
it's
right.
eight, it's eight.
Hibs have got Ross County on Saturday, Craig. We're away at Ross County. Liam sent in our next three fixtures alongside Dundee United, obviously the current occupiers in third. We have Ross County away, Aberdeen at home, and St Mirren away. Not the easiest run of games in the world, obviously. The third and fourth place teams in the league, and then the team directly below us. Dundee United played Rangers at home, Kelly away, and Celtic away. Potential there in the next three league games for us to maybe try and really, really, really pull ourselves into this European
Of course
battle.
it is. Of course it is. If you're a player, you're looking at those games and they are very, very, very winnable games. All of them. Uh, Obviously, Ross County are going okay overall just now. And then Aberdeen, still yet to be seen. I would say
Mhm.
there's still a wee bit of uncertainty. Obviously, they're making a few new signings. So, and then St Mirren away, they're nothing special at all really. So I think you've got to be looking around around the 6 to 7 point mark from nine there. And on the positive side, you say Dundee United, they've got a really difficult run of fixtures coming. So I'd be hoping that you can pick up a few points on them at least.
Mhm. Liam, what's your thoughts going into the game on Saturday? Obviously, it's got to be one game at a time and all that nonsense, but big
Did
opportunity
you,
in the next three games.
did you see how bad their pitch looked at the weekend? Oh my mother of God.
Shocking.
I know Dingwall's bad in January typically, but that is fucking abysmal. Like an abysmal surface. You know, people there's a certain four-eyed individual who's on this podcast who loves to bring up plastic pitches. I'd rather play on a plastic pitch than that abomination. Honestly. It's just so bad. Like that will
Did
be
you see the handball,
I
by the
do
way? Aki's just
oh
mentioned
my
So
that.
I
That
was
God.
going to
was
say, I was just about to mention, but it was a howler. Really awful.
Like they've got a good record at home, which you know, given they play on what is essentially a deserted wasteland as a football pitch, then it's probably no really a surprise. I think that'll be tough. I think that probably will be the toughest of the three fixtures.
I agree. I agree. If I was to pinpoint a win in the three, I'm saying we got St Mirren one. By the way, that's my. If I was putting my hat on a 3 points, that's the one I'm going for. However, 3-1 Hibs is what I'm going for this weekend. We are consistently scoring three goals. Look, do you know what, Liam? We Craig as well, but Craig certainly bets in maybe a different way that we do. Craig likes to put a pound on a 15-fold and hope for the best. We tend to sometimes try and outsmart it. Look what Hibs do. Martin Boyle scores doubles and Hibs score three goals. That's as simple as that. 3-1 Hibs. That's what I'm going for. What about you?
I'm going to go just slightly less. I'm going to go 2-1 Hibs.
Okay,
Hard fought, gritty, not pretty, but deserved 3 points up in Dingwall.
happy days, Craig.
I think I actually slightly disagree. I think we've looked quite good on the long balls recently. And I
Long
think we're going to
balls.
find a wee bit of joy out of that. So I'm going to go 4-0 Hibs.
Sorry, I really hope everyone listening got the Louis Van Gaal. Was that
Yeah,
what that was, Liam?
Big Sham
Big
talk about
Sham.
Manchester United playing long balls. I show you. I have prepared this document to show Big Sham. This is
Liam,
not West Ham
please.
play long balls.
Honestly, I've had enough of
They're
your
a
Man
long
United
balls team.
manager impressions for one lifetime. That's enough.
uh, right, we will leave you with Louis Van Gaal
Have a
for
nice
another
Christmas.
week.
Enjoy your mince pie.
Is that all you've got?
Sadomasochism, huh? You like sadomasochism?
Yes.
Right, we'll be back next week. Money Cabbage. Cheers.
Cheers.